Hey guys, welcome to Music Business Week. I'm Kane Harrison. We're here with CEO of Talkapolis, John Bransford, and we're going to be talking about social media and how it affects today's modern recording artists.
Bandwidth for today's show is brought to you by SoftLayer.com. We love SoftLayer here at Talkapolis. They are the greatest hosting company ever. They make everything easy. Check out their website at SoftLayer.com. Thanks again for sponsoring the show.
Talkapolis, the social media TV network for your city.
Hi guys, welcome back. CEO Talkapolis, John Bransford. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Thank you.
We're specifically going to talk about social media and the climate that that it's in today. It's changed a lot, and it's very, very difficult for artists, recording artists in particular, to get their music out there.
Yeah.
Talkapolis has discovered a couple of new ways in that they can be effective and efficient in the way that they use their social media. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, I mean, social media, while it has problems, it is the only way right now that artists can get discovered.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, there isn't other than the radio, I mean, and I've asked this question almost daily, what else is there other than Twitter and Facebook?
Well, you're dead right. There truly isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, even from a cost-effective perspective, most artists are sitting in their lounge room thinking, how can I get this music out to the masses?
Right.
There are so many doors that are closed in radio nowadays to begin with.
Yeah.
And the other thing is people aren't listening to the radio as much.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, people argue about that. It doesn't matter. It's whether or not people are listening to it as much or less. It's still it's a hermetically sealed environment and artists have a hard time getting into it. We have way more excellent artists than you can possibly listen to on XM or certainly terrestrial FM radio.
Sure.
I mean, it's just the problem. But, then there's YouTube, which I don't really consider to be social media. It's a discovery, it's a place where you can be discovered virally, people share the link and ultimately it catches on, but it's not the same thing. It's turbocharged by social media, but it's something else.
Well,
it works. It works for musicians, but it's not social media.
I think from a musician's perspective, I think it does work, you're right, but the difference is you can't communicate back.
Yeah.
That's the major difference as opposed to a Twitter or a Facebook is you can develop a two-way conversation, which is what an artist wants to be able to do, communicate and get feedback and interact.
Right.
Can't do that on YouTube, certainly can't do that on radio.
Right.
So how do you do that?
You mean how do you interact with your audience via...
Absolutely. How can you accelerate that experience?
Well, again, the problem that social media has is that it's, as we referenced before, sort of an incremental thing. You are building, and it's very hard for artists to build that following. But it's a lot of work. They should do it. They need to do it. It's the sine non qua non to actual having success in the business. But it's still a hard road to go, and it does not. You can't leverage that the way just popping onto the radio just gets you all this automatic exposure. So every time you're you're working your Twitter or Facebook, you're talking to the same people all the time. So it has to be novel, it has to be new. It's a lot of work, and there are ways to leverage that following, and that's what we're talking about here, doing at Talkapolis. We discovered early on that when we were programming other things, but mainly the emerging artists, they would come on the show, and their Facebook and Twitter following were what they leveraged to get views for the videos. And we asked them to, hey, could you point to some of the other shows they're doing, like college, football shows and things like that. And that worked. I mean, if you are...
So essentially, just to interrupt, but in Talkapolis speak, it's called cross-promotion.
Right, and through reach groups.
Through a reach group.
Right.
So which essentially, let's put it in layman's terms, if we're all sitting around a table, 5 people together, essentially we would leave that table and go and tell all my friends about the story that was just told around that table.
Exactly.
You would do the same thing, that person would do the same thing. Essentially it grows and grows and grows because we're all talking about the same sorts of scenarios to different groups of people.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, you put it better than I could. So, but Yeah, and so what we are doing is pulling together a collective group of musicians who have a very high, musicians as a rule have a very high level of influence on social media, period. I mean, you and I have discussed this often, and the research shows this. Twitter Music was formed because of this. 8 of the top 10 people followed on Twitter are musicians, and on and on and on. You know, up into the top 75 Nashville-based musicians have a social media following of 200 and something million people. So,
well, I mean, that in itself is incredible, and you and I have spoken about this, but 208 or 20 million people or something like that in just the top 75 Nashville people. So,
well, Nashville-based Nashville artists
and of course
on labels here or live here.
We're talking about a high end of artists, but still, even so, that's phenomenal. And I don't know of any other medium that can promote or talk or have a reach like that.
Right. Well, there isn't. You know, to analyze, probably overanalyze this, those, an example is the big machine artists, just on that label, have a social media reach of 80 million. Taylor Swift alone is 40, take her out of it, it's another 40 for the rest of them. They don't cross-promote one another. They don't need to cross-promote one another. But should they do that, it would be very effective.
So I bet you the other thing is everyone's sitting watching this and saying, well, that's great. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and talk to the 5 people that I write with, and we're all buddies, so we'll just start talking about each other's music. But it's not that simple either.
Well, yes, it isn't that simple. It's in theory it is, if everybody's very disciplined and carried through, but the problem is that it's actually a lot of work to do that and post it correctly, the timing of post, things like that are critical. I mean, you can have 0 feedback by just mistiming the postings. We've developed the software and everything necessary to, for instance, and I'm just going to give an example, pull 10 artists together who have a following of, let's say, 10,000 each.
Sure.
So the 10 of them would then automatically be talking to 100,000 social media people through social media. And so the day before, the artist may have 10,000, the next day has an audience of 100,000. And, you know, this is the way such a thing works, is that they all agree that they respect each other's music. Nobody is promoting anything they would not feel this is up to them, you know, but I like you, I like you, I like you, I like you, so we can cross-promote each other. I may not agree that it's 100% my type of music, but
that's right.
Who cares? On the radio, it's the same kind of idea.
And I think the other thing, definitely from an artist's perspective, if I've got 10,000 likes, I have to get someone to like my page for me to be able to talk to those people. And to even to be able to expose it to someone new, it's very, very difficult for that to happen. So for me alone to get to 100,000 likes or something like that, it may never happen. It could take a lifetime, but it would take a lot of work and a lot of discipline to get it to that point.
It does, and you know, the thing is, I think some people, non-musicians tend to cheat it a little bit, running contests and things like that, so you end up showing up in people's social media feed and they don't know why you're there. I mean, oh gosh, I got in, I liked that detergent because I wanted to get a chance to win a trip to the Caribbean or something. But you know, who wants to see some of this stuff in their news feed? And often it's not exactly kosher in my opinion. But with musicians, it's people expect they will promote music, right? Promote some music-related things, Nashville-related things, Nashville-related events, charities. All this seems organic. It makes sense.
I think the other thing is that you tend to have a, be it distant, but a relationship, a personal relationship, a level of trust with your audience as a musician, as opposed to being a company that's trying to pump a brand. So if I was to say, hey, John Bransford's got a new song out, you should have a listen to this, then they're more likely to listen to what I've got to say going on my personal relationship.
They would never listen to you again, though, after that. I promise you. That's it. You would have destroyed all credibility.
Needless to say, if I am FedEx and I'm saying, hey, this is a great new product, you tend to glance over it because of the way that we are just so bombarded with advertising. So, as you said,
and FedEx is not going to be promoting UPS. I mean,
that's exactly right.
Yeah, and whereas a musician is, It's called the radio. Look at the model. It's been what? How long have we had radio? Since the 30s? I mean, 20s, I guess. But that promoting, by virtue of their existence on the channel, they're promoting other artists, and that collective nature has worked beautifully.
So for everyone out there who's sort of looking and thinking about, this is all wonderful and fancy, but how do I get involved, or what's Talkapolis sort of pushing here, or it just sort of almost seems too unrealistic for me to say, well, I've got 10,000 likes. This is something I might like to be involved in.
Yeah.
How do I get involved in that? Just give us a brief rundown.
Well, they have to just contact us,
Sure.
and we have to look at their content, and the musicians already in the collective need to agree on it, and that we're very open. I mean, that's it. First thing is to come on Emerging Artists if you're in Nashville, and we'll video, you'll interview. I mean, that gets them, a lot of promotion right there, whether they are part of the collective or not. And sort of we have a little factory going here for that. So
Absolutely.
the first step is to contact us.
And an incredible.
We're not selling anything.
No.
Okay.
But
no non-95 or
I
anything
think the
like-
great thing about it is that Talkapolis isn't selling anything,
Yeah.
but it's a great opportunity for artists to sell themselves.
That's right.
And also to sell their music and to sell their merchandise and all those different things, to have a reach group that they would never
Yeah.
have had before.
Yeah.
So,
Look, there are some services that kind of say we'll promote you and do all these things for literally $9.95 a month, $20.95, whatever. That I don't think it's going to work very well. I think anything that's letting everybody in. We're look. You get on the radio because you're good. You're good at there's a certain level of professionalism you reach.
Sure.
Okay. Well, same thing with the collective. Same thing with what we're doing. We're not letting everybody who can get a hold of a credit card and thinks they're a musician, and that's not the idea. It really is virtual label kind of, just a different kind. That's another discussion.
the future.
Yeah.
Awesome. John, thanks for joining us, and we'll
Thank you,
see
King.
you guys next time on Music Business Week.
All right.